When my mentor introduced me to archetypes and the feminine archetype specifically, I felt such a homecoming, and I really began to see and feel how I was tapping into the archetypes of the soul. Archetypes give us a much wider symbolic lens and really helps us give us a roadmap for qualities and ways of being and potentialities and diversities that really exist in us personally, but also collectively as well. What I noticed most of all was that women were disconnected from their felt sense and their embodied knowing through the earth, literally. We were taught to turn away from that versus understanding this is living wisdom, and we already live it, hold it, embody it. What archetype is speaking to me right now? And if you don't feel like you have an understanding of what maybe the traditional defined archetypes are, like give them their own names and then sit there.
Hello, beautiful souls. It is Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. Before we dive into today's podcast, I do have a small request from my heart. If our conversations ever resonate with you or have supported you on your journey, please subscribe to our channel or like this video. It helps us grow Sacred You, welcome more powerful voices into this space, and keep you connected to everything we share. Thank you for walking this path with us. Let us begin with today's conversation. Welcome to the Archetypes of the Soul podcast. My name is Sophia from Sacred You. And with me, more importantly, in today's episode is the beautiful Sharon Ann Rose. Sharon, thank you so very much for coming and joining us on our podcast. I'm really excited to have you here.
Thank you, Sophia. I am honored to be here with you.
Yeah. I've known you a little while, Sharon, because of course you come on our wisdom circles, and I just want to start straight off by just honoring you. Honoring you because you spent a good part of your life guiding women through their life transitions, from grief and identity and midlife and everything else. And now you're an author, plus lots of other things as well. And your book, which I want to get into, and I know you've got the Faces of the Mother. Tell us about you, Sharon, how you got to where you are now. And also, I'd love to know, what does archetypes mean for you?
Yes, let's see which angle I'll come in. I first think I'll share about archetypes. So my mentor, who I have had for many years, she's in her 80s now. She calls herself a fairy godmother, and she's on the west coast of the US. And she introduced me to archetypes, and she really was that guiding light and force to not just be introduced to archetypes, but to feminine archetypes. And she had crafted the 13 feminine archetypes, and being introduced to that changed my life. And I think what it most did is it connected me with something of an imprint from when I was young. And that was, I would move through life and have this feeling like everything was so much, it represented so much more symbolically than just the surface value or just what I was being taught. And I could always feel my interaction, whether it was with the earth or energies or even others, there was like this deep symbolism in it. So when my mentor introduced me to archetypes and the feminine archetype specifically, I felt such a homecoming, and I really began to see and feel how I was tapping into the archetypes of the soul, literally, with others. And this now gave me context, and it gave me a bit of a backbone for it. It gave me a structure. And so from there, I had a very particular, deep from birth connection with the archetypal mother. And so I just went on a deep journey with that and began to see, we will often just call the archetypal mother, but then she began showing me there were so many faces inside of her. And that really helped me, because so much of my lived journey and when I began turning towards working with women was because I had become a mother, and gestating life and incubating life was teaching me so much about the soul. And so that imprint then combined with the archetypal wisdom changed everything. And then I began to get way more nuanced of, the great mother is not something simple that we can even, put one label on. She is so nuanced and varied. And there was such a homecoming for me to realize that lives in me, and that lives in every woman that I work with and have worked with, and exists for across all of humanity and all time and space. So that's a bit of what I know about the archetypal world, and more of that kind of refining it into a definition, a workable definition. I began to see and understand and was taught how archetypes give us a much wider symbolic lens. And it can feel like we're touching into timelessness and really ancient ways of understanding beings and energies and symbolism, and beginning to not just turn towards it as, that is something that exists in the ethers, but also historically, and then also inside of us, and really helps us, give us a roadmap for qualities and ways of being and potentialities and diversities that really exist in us personally, but also collectively as well.
Thank you. It's amazing, isn't it? Especially for the archetype of the mother. And as you said, there's so many different faces of the mother and different aspects of those archetypes that we can all step into, both and especially women and also men, because we all have the masculine and feminine within us. So thank you for that. And why do you think the mother, the archetype of the mother, is so central to our lives, even to this conversation?
Yeah, so I feel like she was certainly one of the first archetypes, because life generated from her and through her. And when you look at various traditions, faith-based, religious, and spiritual traditions, they often do refer to life as this feminine energy. And though then it became quite patriarchal, and then everyone was studying the male archetypes or the male godhead and male figures, you'll see again and again that the incubation and gestation and birth of life was very feminine. And so for me personally, I had not intended to become a mother. And so it was a really psychologically deep journey for me to accept that I was choosing and had been chosen. It felt more like I had been chosen to become an earth mother to children. And so I had to do a lot of inner work, and my lineage is of the great mother. And there was such a deep felt sense that this mother was so all consuming and all powerful. And yet I was raised in a very Catholic, Roman Catholic, from a Polish immigrant family. And there were so many things that were confusing to me, because here I was learning about this undefinable yet completely accessible, wide variance, indescribable energy and existence archetype of the mother. And then I was being taught in my religious upbringing that she was like the Virgin Holy Mary and very streamlined, of all pure, all devotional, kind, generous. And then coming in from my Polish heritage, all around me was the Lady of Czestochowa, and she is this beautiful Black Madonna. And so I had a very intuitive sense too of, she's nothing like the Virgin Mother, who was white skinned in her blue cloak. And so I was just beginning to feel there's so much variance in this. So then when I became a mother, I just turned towards her as purely as I could and said, I want to learn from you directly. Please start teaching me if that is something that is in my destiny. And she did. And when I began to see, oh my God, this energy and being holds life and death and destruction and birth and everything in between, in a way that the human mind, certainly in our patriarchal constructed understanding and upbringing, yeah, it cannot be analyzed. It must be felt. It must be taken in and really surrendered to, and then allowed it to ripen through the experiences we will have in our bodies. And she speaks to us that way directly in our heart. So now more than ever, it feels her energy is so important because it is all inclusive. And when I say all inclusive, I mean of everyone, of everything we hold inside of us. And yet, very oriented towards justice, equality, beauty. Matriarchy is not, again, this is not about women rulership. It's about all working together in harmony towards the common good of everyone. So these can feel like very pious ideas, but when you actually start living them, they're very much of their body, and they're very much of her archetypal wisdom and knowledge for these times.
Yes, and I can see that because when we step in to that power, to those forces, it helps us in our lives so much. And I'd love to know more about when you connected with those archetypal forces and how they've really helped you. But why do you think, Sharon, before we go into your book, why do you think we lose connection with those forces that are just natural, that are moving through our lives, but yet we forget them, we lose connection with them? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, one of the things I discovered through the writing of my book is the women who were showcased in my book. It wasn't just exclusive to them, because it was also what I was discovering with the women I worked with in my community, etc. Had this living blueprint of the mother and the connection to the mother living literally in our organs. And what happened is there was this deep like angst and grief and overwhelm because we were not finding it. Here it was, we could feel it, and we're like, oh my God, this feeling is just like nothing else. And yet we would look to the world outside of us and couldn't find it. And so, why is this? I can't answer that question. And yet, we also can by saying, because when we return to this and we really take a deep trust in that which we feel inside, we then begin to bring it outside, and we begin to see that what was outside wasn't real. And then we have to question that of, oh my God, then what is all this dishonesty around us? Oh, that was human constructed. And that was created out of fear. That was created out of a place when we can't understand something, we usually try to destroy it. We usually try to pull it away and tuck it away and just be like, I can't figure out what that is. And that's the mystery, the unknown has, for whatever reason, we all know, like uncertainty, yeah, that can feel really intense. And yet, that's not sincere. It's because we've built up all these misunderstandings about what it is to feel something and allow that feeling to guide us versus having to understand it intellectually. And so, yeah, a lot of things got created, a lot of things got destroyed. And what I noticed most of all was that women were disconnected from their felt sense and their embodied knowing through the earth, literally, because she lives like through everything around us. And that's one of our first easiest initiations, is with the earth coming alive and awakening in our body. And so, yeah, that we were taught to turn from that, to turn away from that, to turn towards concrete, to turn towards plastic. And I mean that symbolically as well, to turn towards media, to turn towards digital creations versus understanding. This is living wisdom, and we already live it, hold it, embody it. And that's how we return to it and then rebuild it here.
Yes, yeah, and I see exactly and totally agree with you. I think now, excuse me, we've had another pandemic of human doingness instead of being. It is so easy to get caught up in the doing, in the technology, in the concrete, and the 3D world, the matrix around here, rather than just connecting with that being within us, connecting with those archetype forces, with the mother and everything else that is already within us. But we just tend to ignore it.
Yeah, we were taught to distrust it. And that's the part, like when we finally acknowledge how, yes, we were lied to, so to speak, but then we also began lying to ourselves. And that's where the big, greatest work starts taking hold, because we can work with that one and we can hold that lovingly, and we can provide forgiveness to ourselves, that we begin to believe those things and then we turn them in on us and our own bodies. And yeah, that's the tender terrain I work in, and where I see the biggest change. Because when a woman finally says, oh, I'm not gonna lie to myself anymore, yeah,
Magic could happen.
watch out.
Watch out, world, here I come.
Yes,
Now tell us about your amazing book. Do you have it there? The Faces of the
I do have it here, so it
So
is right
talk about all
here.
these faces and what do they mean and how can we bring them into our life?
Yeah, so my book is a living archetypal wisdom, and it's a playbook. And so, workbook, playbook, journey for sure, a living journey. And so, it walks you through 13 faces of the mother as archetype. I had taken my mentor's template, but then went inside specifically to say, show me the faces inside of the mother, because that was, I needed to deconstruct this puritanical mother figure I had been raised with, because I now had become her. I was literally the living body of a mother. And I knew I couldn't be 1D or 2D. I needed to be 13D and beyond. And so that was so important to me. And so this is that journey. And it's also showcases me walking it with a group of women who then also walked it within themselves and worked with creation, worked with their creative impulses. So each woman was partnered with a different archetype, a different face inside of the mother. And then over the course of 3 months, she listened to that. I guided everyone through different processes and experiences. And then they created something out of that to honor, oh, I'm the living face of this. I'm the power of this. The mother in her fullest expression, in her unified expression, lives in me. And so women made artwork and poetry and songs. And this book became a blueprint of how we are each the embodiment of her in her full, whole expression. And then it gives practices, it gives examples, and it gives the deep insider honesty of what it is to reclaim this in your life. And it's not always pretty. There's some pretty intense stages of distilling down this energy inside of oneself in a female body in this time and place in our world, and really saying, no, I am the vessel of this, and I then am the truth of this, and thus I'm the expression of this. And so this book is a impetus and a container and a real safe guardian of a woman's path through this and into this.
An opportunity to go on that journey and to take back your power, as you said.
Yeah, your mother force. Again, this is the primal force. This is the one that then everything returns to and everything comes from. And that then also asks that we also even take all the variety of the faces and then return them literally to our own.
True.
So it's the distillation, but then back to the unification.
And I want to go into the distillation a little bit more, because you talk about the distiller, you talk about lots of different archetypes with the distiller, and it's a fascinating archetype because you don't hear it very much. Where you got the feminine and the healer and the mystic and everything else, are reasonably common archetype. But the distiller, what does the distiller teach us, especially about discernment and extracting the truth from our experiences?
Yeah, beautifully stated. And even you just doing that is an exact living example and role modeling of it. It's taking the breath, the confusion, the noise of our times, the cacophony, the extremes, and saying, wait, what is the essence of this? It's also taking duality and saying, where is this actually not duality? Where does one thing exactly live inside of the other, and vice versa? Like you said, where does the mother live inside of male bodies?
Yes.
And the distiller just causes everything in our brain to go, what? What? And then she just brings it in so deep to essence and to a place where we no longer even need words like resistance or opposition, because we discovered there's nothing to oppose, there's nothing to resist, there's just something to, and I keep doing this, to just allow it to bring us down to the seed of truth, of what you said, the seed of honesty and truth. And we all hold that, and we do hold it differently because of our own makeup and experiences. And yet, even that goes down even deeper till we're all literally expressing somewhat of the same truth. And we're the different faces. So the distiller does that. It's like this spiraling energy just working through us. And when we can sit with that, it feels really liberating, because it's just like this shedding, and then you can feel it land in the body, and it's just like this enormous exhale of almost effortlessness and a willingness to say yeah, just to the simplest truth within us.
Wonderful, isn't it? Very, very powerful, very enlightening. And what about some other faces, some other archetypes of the mother, Sharon, that have helped you in your life and can help other women? But what are some of the other faces of a mother?
Yeah, so one of the biggest ones, certainly for me in my work, but what I see now, is the mother as midwife. And I want to share a story from my second son's birth. And I had him at home in our kitchen in a beautiful water tub. And my labor went on for a really long time. And there was a point when my midwife came over, and she didn't know what next to do, so to speak. And she put her forehead to mine. And I was in the tub and kind of writhing, and she just put her forehead to mine. And what happened in that moment was, again, so unexplainable, so powerful, so distilling, because what she was saying was many things without saying anything at all. And it was, one, trust your body. Two, trust you are the evolutionary impulse. Three, you are here to birth something through you. And I feel now more than ever, when all these systems are crumbling and changing, and everything that we've built has to be distilled. Some things, yeah, were absolutely atrocious and built on lies. And most things were just built, as all things are, with what we understood at the time. And now we're in a really different place. It has to be distilled. We don't need most of what life was built upon. We need essence. And so we are being asked then to midwife with that same quality, which means we don't put ourselves aside. We do hold distiller, we hold essence, and then we midwife by trusting our bodies, trusting the evolutionary impulse through us, and trusting we're here to bring something forward that will be of benefit to all of creation. And we need that. We need that from every one of us now, because each of us are here, whether you're in a female form, a male form, a transgender form, we're here to midwife through us what we have and what we literally were born with, and is now at its, I think, apex, because society and the environment and all of us are here to really lean into each other's wisdom and birthright. So I think that midwife is so exquisite, because she trusts herself, but she also trusts the collective energy of universal wisdom through her and in these times.
Very true. Thank you. Because whether you're a mother or about to become a mother or not, as you said, we all have that within us. Yeah. All these aspects and so much wisdom, lived experience that we can now birth and bring into the world. Yeah. When we connect with, like you said, the midwife within us. Love that. Love that. They don't have to be an actual mother as such, but we all have things to bring forth into the world, all our beauty in whatever way that may be.
Beautifully said.
Now, we are putting the links to your book below, so anyone who is watching or listening to our podcast, do click on those links and reach out to Sharon, and also the book. Get yourself a copy of the book, Faces of the Mother, A Feminine Path to Embodiment Through Ancient Wisdom, Archetypes, and Soul Fertility. I love that title. So deep. We could go on. I think you need to come back, Sharon, have a part two. But before I go on and ask you a little bit more about your life too, anything else that you'd like to share about your book and what are some other benefits of it?
One of the biggest benefits is, so I published this 10 years ago. And then after publishing it, I had a tsunami, so to speak, of all the things I thought then I had to do as supposed author and follow this trajectory and work really hard to put a book out there and follow marketing standards crumbled. It crumbled before my eyes because I couldn't do that. And then my life literally crumbled. And so I went back under. And she asked me to go back under even deeper than I had ever gone before. And that didn't just last a few days or months, it lasted a decade. And I often wanted to go to the surface and be like, get me out of here. But she said, no, I've got you. Come back down. So what I want to share about that is that lives in the book now, because when I was guided to republish it a decade later, it was, you now have a very, meaning me as author, but then what this book's wisdom is holding is a very different understanding that the notions and ideas of creation are not sustainable if we cannot honor the natural seasons and cycles of her timing and her ways and her capacity to bring things into alignment and birth them from that place instead of a place of effort, of manufacturing, of manipulation, of the like, I know what's right. And yeah, the earth doesn't. So that doesn't work. So the book holds that in such a both spoken but also deeply subtle nonverbal transmission. And it's really important also, I think, in these times, because everyone is exhausted. Everyone's exhausted from trying so hard to make our projects work, to make our businesses a certain way, to go after our goals. None of those things are wrong, but there is a way to do this in such a deeper softness and surrender, collaboration, alignment, coherence, all of it. And I think that's really important as we go forward.
Yes, and it is. It's like it's regenerating our life. Yeah. It's connecting to that inner power that we all have within us, but we all get caught up in this 3D world. That you're just really going within and claiming the power of all the various different archetypes that we all have within us. Yeah. Throughout our lives, throughout the day. Yes. And also, Sharon, we're talking about regenerating. Your life has changed so much, especially as you just described 10 years of going through, I would say, called possibly the dark night of the soul. But being guided to go down there, to go into that deep self and regenerate your whole being, regenerate your life. So what is the regenerator? Because that's also an archetype, as you're calling it. What has it taught you about trusting life and all the different timings of life?
Yeah, so I want to share the woman who had the Regenerator as her archetype, what she created. She created this sculpture, and she worked with plaster and other forms and cloth. And her creation was literally a hand coming up into a cage. At first, it was a cage to create a form, which was a womb. And so it was her hand going up into a uterus, into a womb. And it was so powerful too, because I got to see the behind the scenes and the different stages of it. So at first it was almost like a hand going into a cage, a constriction. Also could be seen as a cage that holds what's most precious and mysterious and doesn't want to be ripped out and like plunged into life right away. It has its timing. It's more like and it did look like a cocoon by the end, like a butterfly. You don't go in there when a butterfly is in its metamorphosis. You leave it alone. And because you trust, again, that midwife energy, and then going into the regeneration, you trust it holds what it needs. You don't sit there and manipulate it and feed it things. You just stand back. And so I think there's this aspect too. When our body is going through things, when our psyche is going through things, when our collective consciousness is going through things, that we make space. We make space and we trust the regenerative process. We trust we don't have to get in there and make regeneration happen. Regeneration comes, like you said, from such a deep place in the earth, a deep place in our cosmology, in our history and evolution, a deep place in our bodies. And when we can be with that, when anyone, you can see someone who knows this energy because you now are working with it instead of manipulating or forcing it, which you actually can't do. If you tried to go in and make the sweet little embryo, whether it's of a human or maybe of a bird, for example, be born out of the egg, you have just decimated an entire aspect of its regenerative creation, of its regenerative birthing. And then gets what happens when a baby is born too soon. It goes into the intensive care unit and is put on. Do you know what I mean? So that's what we've literally been living like. And so regeneration is allowing that full cycle of what needs to replenish a system before it moves on to the next stage. And so it's really powerful when you can touch regeneration in your own body and system and being. It changes the course of your life. You begin to understand the nuances of the nonverbal world that is very deep and energetic and felt. And it, like you said, it replenishes you so that once you've gone through something so intense, you're not depleted. When you move on to the next thing, you're actually in a much more regenerative space.
And it's so very helpful in our life. And as it is just to go into that and regenerate all different aspects of our life and take power from the archetypes, take the blessings, the assistance, the help from the different archetypes that are in our lives. Thank you. And before we wrap up, Sharon, because I know we've got limited time now, that's why I'd love for you to come back and have part 2. But just a couple of quick questions. If someone who is listening and watching doesn't really know a lot about archetypes, haven't really experienced them, besides reading your book, which I do recommend for everyone, where would you suggest that they start just to explore the different archetypes?
Yeah, I love this question because what I always want to highlight is may we come into this innocently because it is child's play. And you're being brought back to a more imaginative way of living, and then you're trusting your imagination. And so I would invite people to make it really personal. And quite simply, it might just be going, what archetype is speaking to me right now? And if you don't feel like you have an understanding of what maybe the traditional defined archetypes are, yeah, do what I did and make them up. Give them their own names and then sit there. You could be going on a walk and be like, oh, the archetype of, I'm trying to even think of a new energy of flight. The archetype of flight. What is that? And then you go for a walk and something will show up for you and it will, and you'll go, oh, what wisdom does that have for me? And that is it's meant to be very playful. And it's when we enter into that more imaginative space where we understand the creative power that actually lives in us and that is available to us because we're in conversation with all of life all the time. So I would encourage playfulness, wonder, and then really letting yourself give name, structure, and context to it because you'll then walk really differently. You'll be like, oh, I'm working with the archetype of flight right now, and this is what it's teaching me. And then, yeah, you can certainly, there's lots of information, books, and fun things to also go further and deeper and see what other people have come up with.
I know, yeah, absolutely. And there's so many quizzes out there too.
Like your
There's
quiz,
ours,
Sacred Muse
there's
quiz.
the
I
Soul
love
Seeker,
that one.
yeah, the Soul Seeker quiz and so many other quizzes as well. But also, if I can mention just briefly, I was having a chat with another woman before who's a tarot reader, and all the cards, all the tarot cards are also archetypes. The Queen that's within us all, the Joker, the Hangman, they're all different archetypes. They're all there for messages, so you can just pick one of those. And like you said, Sharon, have fun, just to have fun and to do daily things, daily practices to cultivate a deeper relationship with the archetypes that are moving through it.
Yeah, they're everywhere. As I look out the window right now, I just saw a bird. That's why I came up with the archetype of flight. I see a tree. It's everywhere, like you're saying. It's in the tarot cards. It's in the moon. It's in the sun. And again, this is basically wisdom. That's what archetype is. It's massive wisdom that's wanting to give itself to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And if all our listeners today could remember just one thing about archetypes from this conversation, or to take something from the conversation, what would that be for you?
So if someone wanted to take archetypes, one thing from them, I feel like it's similar to what I just said, which is, may it be intimate, may it be personal, because this will give you a blueprint for your life that comes from within. It comes from within you, and it allows you to tap into a much more mythic experience of what it means to be a human being in a body, while also honoring the honesty of your body, the pains of your body, the limitations of your body, because then you realize there's this mythic being inside, and it doesn't need any kind of particular body to live through. It wants to live through yours and bring that mythic quality to it.
Thank you. Is there any other question that I could have asked you that especially that would help us have a better understanding of the archetypes, or how they shape our souls and how we transfer it, or anything else that you would like to share about the archetypes of the soul?
I feel like, just going on from what I just said, it is a mythic adventure. And it allows also the context of the challenges we're living in to have more breadth, to have more spaciousness, and to have these different faces, literally, inside of all the things we thought were one thing, they then begin to show and reveal as something else. And that does something to us. That then helps us see ourselves differently. And so I would highly encourage and recommend that others just open that door, because ultimately it allows us to come back to a new understanding of us and our own self-identity and self-relationship.
Thank you. Thank you ever so much. And don't forget your book, The Faces of the Mother, which, like I said, we will put the links down below. So for anyone who's watching, just check it out, because it's available through all good bookstores plus Amazon.
Yes.
Yes. And your website, we'll be putting that on there as well. So thank you, Sharon, for joining us today.
Thank you, Sophia.
I will be reading it, because to me, the archetype, just to go into the archetypes, to go into the different personas of ourselves, the different personalities that we all have, and really take the understanding, but their power to help us in our lives. Yes. Incredible.
Yeah, we're so varied. And this is the invitation to realize we are so much more than we thought. And these different aspects they're not in an argument with each other inside. They're actually just so unique and diverse. And that's a real microcosm of what the macrocosm of our lives requires us to be that respectful of the diversity all around us and within us.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear.
It's been a joy, and you have a beautiful day wherever, for you and for anyone out there who is watching. I hope you have also a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Do click on the links below and reach out to Sharon and find out all about this wisdom that we all have inside of us. That, Sharon, you are a living, walking example. So I'm honoured to be able to chat with you today.
Thank you, Sophia. It's my honor to be here.
Thank you. As Sharon so beautifully reminded us, we are so much more than we think we are. The many archetypes that live within us are not competing voices. They are unique expressions of our soul, each carrying its own wisdom, purpose, and gift. And when we begin to honor them, we begin to honor ourselves. Today's conversation invites us to see life through a different lens. The archetypes of the soul are not simply ideas or personalities. They are living forces that shape our journey. Whether it is the mother, the midwife, the distiller, the regenerator, or another archetype calling to you, each one offers a pathway back to your deepest truth. And if you would like to journey deeper into Sharon's work, be sure to explore her beautiful book, Faces of a Mother, a feminine path to embodiment through ancient wisdom, archetypes, and soul fertility. We have included all the links to her website and resources in the notes below. And if this episode awakened something within you, we would love to continue the journey with you. Join us at Sacred You for more empowering conversations, soulful teachings, and a community devoted to awakening, healing, and transformation. Visit our website to explore upcoming events, community offerings, and our Sacred Archetype quiz. Check us out at www.sacredu, that is the letter U, .love. And as always, please subscribe to our podcast. Share it with a friend or leave us a review. We would love to hear your thoughts. Perhaps the greatest invitation from this episode is to become curious, to slow down, to listen, to trust the wisdom that already lives within you. As Sharon shared, our lives become richer when we approach them with wonder, imagination, and the courage to explore the mythical adventure unfolding inside us. Until next time, remember that the archetypes are already alive within you. They are quietly guiding your choices, your relationships, your purpose, and your path. Trust the wisdom of your soul. Honor the archetype that is ready to emerge, and keep walking the journey of becoming who you were always meant to be. From our hearts to yours, thank you.